when you brought up the vaccination rollout strategies, I was, I read a bunch of things and I watched a bunch of videos about, doctors, epidemiologists, etc. And I think that particularly what New York is doing, like limiting eligibility, like first seniors, essential workers, etc. They say that is the absolute dumbest and worst way to to deploy a vaccine. Like it makes no sense to do that, because what you're doing is that you're basically you're slowing the process significantly. Not only that, but this vaccine needs to be held at a certain temperature. It has a certain shelf life. The longer you have it on hand, the more margin of error it is, the more likely someone can, spoil the vaccine. So it just, from what I've seen, and this logic makes sense to me, is that you want to get as many doses out as possible, even if it's just the first dose. It's like what England and a lot of other countries are doing. They're just grab people off the street. You're getting vaccinated. We're going to go through as many, vaccinate as many people as possible to get herd immunity. As here, it's like, okay, we're going to give it to seniors, and then they're going to have to wait. We're going to hold on to the stock for another 21 days so they can get the other shot, when they could have vaccinated how many people in that time. Let's do it.
It's the base. LOSO__G.
DK, the engineer.
It's your boy, Letter After T, B4V. You go, boy.
It's the base.
Run down.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
I thought I was matching your energy. All right. Well, guys, I have something I need to share. I think we need to wish an unfortunate happy birthday to the U.S. COVID virus.
It's a year old.
Yes. Well, it's older than that. But last year, I believe January 20th was the first reported U.S. case of COVID-19. And it was in Washington. It was for some guy that went out to Wuhan, China for whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of, that opened up the floodgates here. So since then, right, since that one year to date, we've had over 24 million cases and over 400 deaths. Just to put it in perspective, 400,000 deaths.
Yeah.
400,000 deaths. Just to put it in perspective, right? In the last 7 days, we've had 1,395,000 cases and 21,000 deaths, right? So like we're going at a rate like 2,200 deaths a day, 150 new cases every day. And that's just, that snowballed into a whole bunch of random things, all the political nonsense going on in the back. So I guess as a whole, I wanted to talk really just like how the world has kind of been responding to this, I guess, comparing the U.S. to the rest of the world, right? So clearly this virus is out. One of the things that was immediately put into effect, well, besides the mask, was just lockdown. And that's had that's affected people on so many, aspects of their lives, more specifically being money, right? So it's just like we're pretty much like we're doing lockdown. We're putting on these masks and we're just trying to kind of wait it out in a sense. Well, pretty much wait it out until I guess a vaccine comes in place. I mean, I remember during this whole, year, there was talks about herd immunity, all that other stuff, but I think we can just say, fuck you to all that shit. Essentially the vaccine is probably going to be what's going to save us all. So when I was doing a little bit of research, I was trying to understand like how the U.S. compared to other countries. And one of the things that kept coming up, which I'm hoping maybe Ed Boy can give some context to this, was the comparison of the economic relief by GDP compared to other countries. So like, for instance, I guess the U.S. lies at around 18.3%, but the countries above it, like Japan, is 42.2%. Slovenia, Sweden are 20%, Finland, Germany, all around 20%, with the US being 18. So I actually don't know if that's a big deal. I know from my end, I don't think they've done enough. Like I'm lucky that, I got a job that's been remote for a while and shit like that. But when I think about the relief we've gotten, specifically to the individual person, right? We got the $1,200 check, we got the $600 check, and then there were those extra payments for people that are unemployment. So, I just wanted to kind of like open it up there. How do you guys think the U.S. has been doing so far? Like, again, when I don't really understand why people keep comparing it to the GDP, of the economy overall, like why that's significant as opposed to like, you know, individual cash to people's hands. So I don't know. I just kind of wanted to stop it there, see what y'all thought.
I mean, all it is, I think what they're measuring is compared to like the annual GDP of a country, how much is the government, you know, helping. So let's just say, for example, you have a GDP of $1 trillion a year. Let's say if they're covering 20% of that in aid, you know, you're getting $200 billion in aid. That's pretty much what I think the numbers are saying. It's kind of hard to tell what they mean because, you know, it's hard to put in the context. I think it's just a data point, right? You can't say, you know, we threw this amount of money at the coronavirus relief, therefore it does better, because I'm looking at the list, like New Zealand has, you know, put towards nearly half the amount of relief to GDP than we did, United States, and they're pretty much over it. They're one of the few countries that completely handle it, like New Zealand, Vietnam. Those are like two of the main countries that handled it, and they did it differently. But I think a lot of this has to do with the sort of piecemeal system that we have. We're very different from other countries where it's way more easy to pass a federal, you know, or their equivalent of like a federal mandate and say, okay, the country's doing this. We're here. We have 50 states. We have, you know, a fuck ton of counties, municipalities, you know, thousands of separate jurisdictions somehow, you know, piecing things together. It's a lot harder. And it's also the populace too, like not to shit on Americans. And I get why people are restless, but compared to like the population of like New Zealand or other countries, you know, Americans, you know, they say we've been on lockdown, but have we really?
That's it, yo, my man. That's, you know,
people
crazy. People always bring that shit up in the group chats, and I'm like we're barely on lockdown, right?
Yeah,
like no one's busting through your door and like smacking you in the face or throwing water on you or, you know, putting you on blast like they do in other countries and shit like that.
Yeah,
like, I don't understand why people are so OD about it.
And it's like what lockdown, and it's one of those things where it's like you may not have symptoms, no one you know has symptoms, but someone down the line at some point is going to catch it and die from it. That's the whole point. The whole point isn't not necessarily you getting sick, even though that's a concern, or your family getting sick, which is a concern. But what the issue is that most people are able to pass on the virus with, you know, either no symptoms or non-life-threatening symptoms, but it reaches someone in which, you know, it reaches someone and kills them. That's basically the issue. And I think the mentality here, and, you know, I don't necessarily have any numbers to back it up, but based on what I've seen and how people have been behaving, people have been acting like nothing's happening. You know, like they'll acknowledge that there's a pandemic, but then, you know, they'll go out and party, or they'll hang out with people who, you know, aren't like taking any real precautions. And I don't know, it's kind of selfish. But I also get it too, because we as a country, we really haven't done enough, particularly for business owners. Like, I don't blame any small business. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I don't blame any small business owner for skirting whatever mandates that they are, because if you can't feed yourself, you know, you're fucked anyway. You know what I mean? The federal government really hasn't done enough to support people. And based on what I've seen, virtually every economist worth their salt pretty much, you know, on any side of the spectrum, pretty much says that you should be giving people money in their hands. It just makes sense. Just give people money in the form of unemployment, cash payments, whatever. You know, so I don't know. That's a long way of saying I don't know. I can't really say based on how much money we've thrown at it. Indicates how well we've handled it, because we haven't handled it well at all. And then I think there's a story that like Biden's one of Biden's administrators basically went through Trump's plan and says they basically had no plan to deploy the virus.
They didn't.
Like,
It's
they were leaning on other people to. I mean, basically, what's been the case is that in the beginning, it really wasn't acknowledged, and then when it was acknowledged, it was like, well, it's kind of up to the states to handle it, and it's like, all right, cool. Well, states can't print money, and they're completely dependent on the taxes that they generate from the populace, and it just so happens that they can't work, and people aren't paying all these taxes. Property taxes aren't going to get paid. It's like, what do you expect? It falls on the Fed, and they drop the ball hard. That's just my opinion. But
I think, bro, it's the previous administration, because since Joe Biden is now President Joe Biden, and
finally
Sleepy Joe,
Kamala Harris, fourth quarter Joey, President fourth quarter Joey now.
Yeah.
The previous administration did such a marvelous job of politicizing this pandemic. God. So it's like, you were already behind. You were already behind the 8 ball in terms of preparation. You were ill prepared for it to begin with. Even though Obama and his administration did have a pandemic task force in place that Trump did a marvelous job of getting rid of at some point in his presidency. So you were already ill prepared from the previous administration. You politicized it. Then you did a great job of downplaying it when on record you knew months ago, I think back in February, and it's on record. We have a previous episode about that of you saying, yeah, we're just going to tell them that it's just like the flu. We don't want to cause a panic or whatnot, thinking that you're preventing hysteria, but all you're doing is ensuring more people are going to get it and more people are going to die. So I mean, it was fumbled. It was fumbled politically. It was fumbled. Pretty much on every level of the freaking executive, legislative, every branch of the government, in my opinion, did a terrible job of preparing and trying to and like you said, like Ed Boy said, they didn't have a plan. You didn't have a plan on top of that. So I mean, if you want to talk about in terms of stimulus in particular, the issue we run into here is, again, like we've mentioned before, you got 50 different states, you got 50 different countries, you got a whole bunch of different municipalities and counties or whatnot. Some states are actually have their shit together, and other states don't. And other states are waiting for orders. Like it's a big clusterfuck. Like I can speak in particular about New Jersey. New Jersey's been awesome. They've been great. They had the Trump payments, the first $1,200 that went out. My $600 payment came in on New Year's Day. The $600 unemployment benefits they did run out, but the $300 payments they screwed up and they gave 2 weeks worth. So basically another $600 payment at the beginning of this week. They're just like, yeah, we screwed up. Sorry. Here's 2 weeks in advance. We owe you 8 more weeks, and we're going to be on top of it. Not every state has their shit together like that, and that's a problem. That's a problem right there in itself. And the eviction protection, the paycheck protections. There's so many things that are falling in the lap of the Biden administration, and they seem like they're like him, Kamala, Dr. Fauci. Like President Biden is hitting the ground running. He's like, yo, we got a lot of work to do. Like we have a clusterfuck that's just dropped in our lap, but this is what we signed up for. This is why we ran so hard, to absorb this problem. But to answer your point, DK, the previous administration, on every level, you can't slice it any other way, they fucked over their citizens. And the citizens didn't help either, because my freedom, my face, my air system, they didn't help either. So, you know what I mean? It's a lot of blame to go around for the position that we're in. I think we last week I read somewhere that we're on pace for by March to have 5,000 deaths a day. We were at 4,000 deaths for about 3 straight days in a row. 4,000 deaths a day at some point last week.
Damn.
So it's like, yo, if the forest was on fire and you were just like, you know what? I'm just going to, throw a cup of water on it and drive back and see how it's check it back on in a couple of days. It's still going to be on fire. It's still going to be on fire. You should have had a better plan in place. So
GDP means gross domestic product, by the way, guys.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, I know the initials.
We're out here throwing out acronyms. People just know.
Oh yeah. So GDP is just basically like the real simple way is how much your country produces.
Right.
Period. Like how much economic value is. It's like one of the measures. That's like the easiest way to do it.
Teacher moment.
You're welcome. Okay, what was
So
the original question?
What?
What was the original question?
No, I want to know the thoughts about that, but so Joe's in here, right? And he's the hero that we unfortunately had by process of elimination. And he came up with a plan to rescue us called the American Rescue Plan.
1.9 trillion.
Notable.
That's I said 1.9 trillion is the number as of now.
I hope that's good. But the thing that caught my eye was direct payments of $1,400, bringing the total up to 2 Gs. I think they just mentioned that just to say the 2 G stuff, and then including that includes the $600 payments. They're going to increase your per week unemployment benefit to 400, extending it in September, bro. Right now they're just like, yo, fuck it. We already know through the summer you're probably going to be able to work.
I'll take it.
They put the federal minimum wage up to 15. I'm not sure what that's about, but whatever snuck in there. You wanted to say something?
That's not happening. I can't see that happening. That's that's wishful thinking.
Republicans ain't gonna stand for that.
That's wishful. A lot of Democrats don't want to fuck with that because you have to think about it. But you have to think about it. Like, I don't know the ins and outs, but like it sounds good. But $15, like if you go to like a rural America, like will businesses be able to pay their employees that much? Like Walmart, sure. Like if you're a certain size, fuck. Like you're getting robbed if you're not getting paid at least 15, for working for a big chain. But I don't know if small businesses in like rural parts of America could afford that. So I don't know. But I think it's one of those things where it has to be like evaluated, where it's like state by state. But there does need to be some sort of, I don't know. It's hard, man. It's real hard because. To me,
no, go ahead, continue.
No, I was just saying it's a real hard thing because, it makes sense in a place like New York, or it makes sense in, high income cities. It makes sense for that to apply to like large businesses, but like small businesses and like, Main Street America, I don't know if that's sustainable, but I don't know. I don't know the economics behind it, but I'm just basing it on what I know. I don't know how feasible that is.
It's a good starting spot. That's what I surmised from my research over the past week about what House Democrats and House Republicans and Senate Republicans and Senate independents and whatnot, they all agree that, okay, we have an adult in office now. He actually has a plan. We actually have something to start with. Because you just do a rough comparison, bro. We got to the CARES Act, the 2.4 trillion, I believe, that got passed, that actually went through or whatnot. That was the last one, and that was bipartisan. That went through. That was great. It was a good starting spot or whatnot. But if you think about everything and all the fuckery after that, the White House didn't even come up with the 1.8 trillion, I believe, that they were trying to pass until after months and months and months and weeks of freaking back and forth, and Steve Mnuchin and Meadows and Pelosi and Schumer playing reindeer games. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. like how much time had to elapse before, the White House was able to come up with something. Now, freaking a day actually he came out with this. Biden came out with this days before he got inaugurated. He's like, listen, I've got a bill in place, boom, that we can start with. Obviously, we can negotiate it or whatnot, but this right here is, we can hit the ground running with this. And if we got to make amendments to it and change little bits and pieces here and there, he feels confident that he can do that. Because there's no economist that I've heard of, to go back to Ed Boy's point, that's like, yo, cash in Americans' hands is not a bad thing. Especially now, if you want the economy to have any type of realistic shot of turning around by realistically the second quarter of this year, you have to put cash in its citizens' hands. You have to. There's no way around it. Yeah. So going back to the 2 Georgia Senate seats that were won, that changed the majority. They ran Ossoff and Warnock. They ran on giving citizens money. It's not a hard concept. We want to give you money. So if you run for us, if you vote for us, we will enable that. Not a hard concept. Not a hard concept. The economy sucks. Citizens can't work. Give them money so the economy is better. Not hard. Not hard at all. It's literally
so.
easy.
A few other things included in that, included in this plan is them extending the eviction and foreclosure moratoriums until the end of September. I also heard some random stuff about like people, like landlords not respecting and that these stuff put into place to prevent people from getting evicted, and like some landlords are just doing some dirtbag shit.
Because I mean,
I don't know if it's true, right? This could be like just meme central, just convincing me of something else.
Well, it wouldn't. It's not too far fetched because I've heard that too. I've watched a couple of news stories about that, because you got to think about it. These landlords, yeah, some of them are douchebags, some of them are trash people, but not all of them. You see what I'm saying? Like they're up against it as well. Like they've got freaking mortgages and freaking bills to meet, and if they got tenants that aren't working and can't pay for it, they're as assed out as the tenants, because they're going to lose that property. And if they lose that property, you see what I'm saying? It's a cycle.
Correct me if I'm wrong. It's like the money, it still has to be paid eventually. It's just like you're not paying it now, so it's just kind of accumulating. Or is this like a case by state cases? I guess situation.
Yeah, it's not a freeze. It's not like loans. Like it's a completely different situation. Like loans, they've frozen loans. I can say this because I've got loans from Penn State. Like they've frozen the loans with no interest. So it's in forbearance now. I'm not paying anything toward it, but when it's when it's goes back on in whatever September or whatever month, Biden decides to cut the faucet back on. Yeah, I'm still going to owe it, but there's not going to be this outstanding $5,000 or $10,000 or $15,000 in interest that's going to get tacked on. Like, yeah, surprise, COVID. Like the rent's not going to do that. So that to answer your point, that's what's going on with that.
Yeah, man, this is crazy. I wonder what landlord-tenant court's going to be like in New York, particularly.
Madness.
Like it's going to be, because it was never not
murder episodes, bro.
Yeah, it was never not a shit show. Like even running at 100% capacity, it was never not a shit show. So it's like there's going to be probably tens of thousands of cases. Like as soon as this shit is done, and it, it's going to be.
They might have to have, honestly, to go to Ed Boy's point, they might have to like cut a completely separate bill just for rent forgiveness or mortgage forgiveness. They honestly might.
Yeah.
Because I don't see them. I honestly don't see them just like baking it into whatever this COVID relief package is. And honestly, if cases continue, this is just part 2, I believe, or part 3. I've lost count of like what movie we're on. This is like part 3. They have to do another relief package at some point if cases continue. So it's like, yo, you're gonna have to do a separate one just for rent forgiveness and relief, because it's so much money and so much bullshit that these tenants, as well as these landlords, because I'm not forgetting them, they're going through it as well. Let's not make it like an isolated thing. Like, yo, if you got people that can't pay the rent, or what I mean, how are you going to pay your mortgage if you yourself aren't working, or your hours are slashed? It's a lot to think about.
Yeah, it's a shit show. I think the priorities need to be deployment of the vaccine and deployment of the vaccine, testing, and yeah, I think no matter what we're going to do, as long as we have the specter of COVID from a material standpoint, from a public relations standpoint, that just needs to be addressed, period. Because, no matter what, as long as we have that hanging over our head, as long as that shit isn't handled, everything else politically gets just like way, way harder. Because the sooner we can get over this shit, since it's been so politicized, the better this current administration can address it, the more we can get done. So I think, if anything, direct payments, vaccine distribution, mass testing, priorities.
Yeah, it's like pretty clear at this point that we're not getting out of this shit without the vaccines. And I guess we got two vaccines that have gone mainstream. There's the Pfizer and the Moderna one. They're both 2-dose vaccines. One of them is you got to take like about 21 days apart. The other one 28 days apart. These vaccines are, I believe, they're both mRNA vaccines. Which when I researched, it's like new but not like unknown. It's something that like researchers have been working with for decades. And apparently the reason why I guess people like this or scientists like this technique is because it can be developed in a lab with apparently like readily available materials, whatever that means, which essentially means that it's just easy for them to develop, standardize, and scale up. And like apparently they've been using this they've been using this, I guess, for as potential treatment vaccines for like flu, Zika, rabies, and even like certain types of cancer treatments. And I guess one of the big like long hopes about this is that like they believe that they can evolve this technology to allow like one vaccine that can provide protection for like multiple diseases. So it's like that one pill to do it all. So yeah, we've had this out there, and I believe there's the vaccination rollout strategies, right? Again, the goal of them is really just like to get to that herd immunity, so we can get back to normal. So I did try to look into like what they consider the herd immunity to be for the COVID vaccine, and they really don't actually have like a super hard number. I think they're using maybe like something over 80%, which is it's really I guess based off just other viruses. But for some reason, probably because this is new and just because how it's evolving, they say that they're not, they can't give a hard number, but whatever. Herd immunity is still kind of like the goal. So I've kind of read around that there's like a few different ways that they've been distributing it. The 2-dose thing, right? So like it's 2 doses and like limited eligibility seems to be like the way the U.S. is going, right? Where it's just like these people can get it, now these people can get it. And I'm not sure which countries are trying to do this, but there's another strategy that people are trying to go about, which is really not prioritizing getting 2 doses right away, but prioritizing getting everybody 1 dose so that you can reach herd immunity sooner. And then I guess this talk about like just shortages and stuff like that, and maybe how we can get more people vaccinated. And this is a suggestion of doing half dose shots, which I believe that's specifically for the Moderna. I'm not sure if that has any type of like backing, but it is something that I saw pop up multiple times, which doesn't really like seem right to me. I don't know, man. I know a few people that have gotten the vaccines already. I think the big thing about it is that like you can get this vaccine, you can be vaccinated, but you can still spread it. So it's just like, our lives are really not going to change, with the exception of like being less likely to die, right? Because you're vaccinated. But yeah, it's like even if you get the vaccine, right? There's the thing about like, how long is the immunity going to last?
You
It's
go
my
away,
big
got
question.
it.
What happened?
He thinks I got it.
From the people I spoke to that has gotten the vaccine thus far, as far as symptoms go, one person was like how he had cold shivers, supreme headaches, but it was in response to he assumes that it's because he had COVID before. And then other people I speak to who have never had COVID, they're like, "Oh, it's just regular. Like I don't feel anything. I just have a sore arm. Nothing's going on too much more than what I was going through with my body before." And from what I understand about the vaccine, it's not like how the flu vaccine is like a little bit of flu, so your body can figure out a way to fight it. It's not like that for COVID. Like they're not giving you a little bit of COVID so your body can figure out to fight it. It's a whole, like you said, DK. It's a whole different idea behind the vaccine now.
What they do is that they.
No, go ahead. I spoke too much.
The same thing at the same time.
Oh no! What I was going to say, what they do is that they take what they call a spike protein that's found on the surface of COVID vaccine. I mean, not COVID vaccine, COVID virus.
Yeah.
And what they do is that their idea is that they introduce this spike protein to the human body, is that will
fight it.
Eventually the body will learn how to fight it. Essentially that's what happens.
Let's hope so.
Yeah. No, I mean, you know, I mean, we'll see. We'll see, because one thing that, you know, people are like, oh yeah, how is it ready so fast? You know, this is the fact. I mean, the thing is that people don't realize how much bureaucracy and red tape is behind a vaccine, right? So it can take a vaccine years to get approved for no other reason other than, like, you know, politics or bureaucracy or, you know, and in a case like this where it's a global pandemic, well, that shit kind of goes out the window. You know, you can't even politics too much if you want to, you know. So I don't know. I think it's real interesting when it comes to, when you brought up the vaccination rollout strategies. I read a bunch of things and I watched a bunch of videos about, you know, doctors, epidemiologists, etc. And I think that particularly what New York is doing, like limiting eligibility, like first seniors, essential workers, etc. They say that is the absolute dumbest and worst way to to deploy a vaccine. Like, it makes no sense to do that, because what you're doing is that you're basically you're slowing the process significantly. Not only that, but this vaccine needs to be held at a certain temperature. It has a certain shelf life. You know, the longer you have it on hand, the more margin of error it is, the more likely someone can, you know, spoil the vaccine. So it just, from what I've seen, and this logic makes sense to me, is that you want to get as many doses out as possible, even if it's just the first dose. It's like what England and a lot of other countries are doing. They're just like, just grab people off the street. You're getting vaccinated. You're getting vaccinated. We're going to go through as many, you know, vaccinate as many people as possible to get herd immunity. As here, it's like, okay, we're going to give it to seniors, and then they're going to have to wait. We're going to hold on to the stock for another 21 days so they can get the other shot, when they could have vaccinated how many people in that time, you know? So yeah, I think the way most states are doing it, like, you know, limiting eligibility, I think that's pretty stupid. I think I don't know. From what I can tell, I think any other strategy makes more sense than that. Just vaccinate as many people as possible. Fuck all this, you know, old people, whatever. You know, just vaccinate people. Just get it done.
It just it's still so political in this country, bro. I'm hoping this administration, this is what we voted for. I'm hoping they don't politicize that, because that was also politicized. Just the thought of vaccinating people of getting it out or whatnot, that was so politicized with Trump and company. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I get it. The professional athletes, NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, yeah, those are multi-billion-dollar conglomerates. So yeah, we need that entertainment. They need that revenue. They got TV contracts and freaking advertisement and sponsors and this, that, and the third, and quotas to meet. So yeah, they got to get the players and staff and producers of like the actual telecasts and whatnot and productions. Yeah, they need to be vaccinated. Same with like Hollywood actors and actresses. Yeah, they got to be vaccinated, and directors. You know what I mean? But us common folk who aren't in entertainment, you know what I mean? In order to, you know, go to work or, you know what I mean, just survive or whatnot, or just continue to live and not give it to anybody, there should be a comprehensive plan. I'm hoping Biden and Fauci and his people, as well as the relief strategy, I'm hoping they're beginning to set the parameters in place. There's only one day in, or 2 days in, or whatever. They're putting the pieces and parameters in place to have a comprehensive plan, because this will get worse. It's supposed to get worse. I mean, we're like entering the eye of the storm, so to speak. So it's like, we're not gonna. It's gonna depend how long we're gonna be in this shit show if they don't have, you know what I mean, a competent plan in place. So yeah, they gotta have something. They have to have something.
I hope their plan is real competent, because the future of COVID is showing multiple strains, new strains popping up all over the world. I found some articles about Brazil, not surprised, South Africa, Georgia and Florida, no fucking duh. UK, we've heard about that one before, and Japan. I think so. Like mutations, we mentioned this like in one of the other rundowns before. like mutations are normal, right? Things mutate, but it's about the type of mutation that comes out, and then how successfully that is able to replicate. And also, not doing like lockdowns or, not wearing your mask also increases the likelihood of mutations, because it's increasing how often it could multiply. So the common thing that they have found in all of these is that they has more spike proteins. And what that essentially means is that it's more contagious. But knowledge is very limited. There's currently no proof that it's more deadly. And there's also the big question, right? Like, are the vaccines that we're taking now, are they going to be, helpful against against these new strains? And I'm going to say we have limited data, just because, like, when I was just doing limited research on this, some people said yes, some people said no. But at the end of the day, it seems like we don't really know, just because it's way too early in the game. But I think that is something to worry about, just because, like, this could very, very likely, like we mentioned before, turn into like the flu, where every year we have a new version of this virus, and we have to take a new vaccine in order to prevent it. But I mean, that sounds like bad news. Well, clearly it's bad news, mutations that we don't want. But we do have new vaccines also in the pipeline. There's about three, not about three, but there's three specifically that they're mentioned in the CDC website that are in phase 3 as of December 28, 2020. I'm not even going to bother saying they're in I'm going to say it. AstraZeneca's, whatever.
Not AstraZeneca.
There we go. Janssen's. We know a guy named Janssen.
I know Janssen.
Novavax.
Janssen.
And Novavax. So yeah, those are 3 vaccines that are, I guess, planned for the U.S. and they're in the pipeline. But honestly, man, it just seems like, I remember when we first had these conversations about this, and we were comparing it to the Spanish flu and saying that, like, hopeful a year, probably 2 years. Now I'm thinking that, well, clearly, definitely 2 years, maybe 3, man. I really don't want to go 3 years doing this shit.
Okay, Latinx flu.
I feel like if 45 would have gone back to back, bruh.
Over.
Oh my God.
You're talking, bro.
It'd have been
Oh man, that would have been crazy.
It'd have been freaking I Am Legend, bro. Because there wasn't a plan.
That would have been crazy.
There wasn't
Damn.
a plan before. There wasn't going to be another plan for the next.
No one has a dog, right? You have to choke out your own dog and shit.
I have a dog.
That.
I got a dog. I ain't trying to be Robin Neville, bro.
Oh man.
Oh boy.
Did you guys laugh in that scene? Y'all were fucked up.
No,
I didn't.
No?
Bro, that scene was sad as shit, bro. I saw it in theaters like 3 times. Every single time I teared up. I was like, damn.
Will Smith deserves an Oscar for all his acting.
Who?
Wait, what'd you say?
Will Smith deserves an Oscar for all his acting.
They'll give him one. They'll give him an honorary one at some point.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully COVID doesn't get to us before that happens. Until then, that's the rundown.
That's the rundown.
Stay safe. Have common sense.